and US are concerned, because there have been reports throughout that Tesla would be opening two showrooms in India. The first one would be in Mumbai's BKC, and the second one would most likely be in Delhi's AeroCity. So these are some significant developments, and the discussions would have revolved around these topics, and also the fact that Starlink's entry is possible in India. There have been reports in the last few weeks that Starlink is looking to penetrate the Indian market. It has already done so in some neighboring countries of India. So it would be looking to, do all of that. And the conversation between both the leaders would have certainly revolved around these topics.
Well, thank you so much for that, Vishal. Starlink over Indian skies and Teslas on Indian roads to be expected soon. Moving on, a story from West Asia. US airstrikes targeting the Ras Issa oil port held by Yemen's Houthi rebels have apparently killed 38 people and have wounded 50 others. The militant group, in fact, claimed this early Friday. Now, the strikes confirmed by US military's Central Command, or the CENTCOM, in fact, represent one of the highest reported death tolls so far in the campaign launched under President Donald Trump that has involved hundreds and hundreds of strikes since the 15th of March. The Houthis' Al Masaira satellite news channel, in fact, aired graphic footage of the aftermath of the attack, showing corpses strewn across the site. A news from Asia now. India has vehemently rejected Bangladesh's remarks on the violence in West Bengal's Murshidabad, in which 3 people were killed. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal has said in a statement, and I'm quoting here, "We reject the remarks made by Bangladesh side with regard to the incidents in West Bengal." Now, Mr. Jaiswal also slammed Dhaka and said that it was disguised and disingenuous attempt to draw parallel with India's concerns over the ongoing persecution of minorities in Bangladesh, in fact, where the criminal perpetrators of such acts continue to roam free, and it's for the international community to see. And this move actually comes after another loudmouthed comment by Mohammed Yunus, when he was visiting China on the sidelines of his bilateral visit to China, where he said that Bangladesh is in fact the guardian of the Bay of Bengal. For more of this story, my colleague Saurabh joins me now. Saurabh, Yunus's comment in China, followed by the cancellation of the transshipment facility, and now another motor-mouth comment, unwarranted, unwanted, and infactual comment by Dhaka. Where do you see this going, and how much more can the diplomatic relationship really deteriorate from here?
Well, this is something that is surprising, because obviously India has been pushing Bangladesh to protect minorities, and we know that the minorities in Bangladesh, especially the Hindu community, has come under attack from radicals there. So obviously for Bangladesh to turn around and talk about protection of minorities in India is also something that the Indian establishment is not viewing, in a good way, because obviously what is happening here is Bangladesh is trying to turn the tables, and that is something that the diplomatic establishment will obviously has responded to. In fact, they've gone on to say, a statement from the MEA, the Ministry of External Affairs in India, has said in a very sharply worded statement and a strong rebuff to what happened in Bangladesh. They say this is a barely disguised and disingenuous attempt to draw a parallel with India's concerns over the ongoing persecution of minorities in Bangladesh, where the criminal perpetrators of such acts continue to roam free. Instead of making unwarranted comments and indulging in virtue signaling, Bangladesh would do better to focus on protecting its rights of its own minorities, which is what the MEA spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal said in a sharply worded statement. Now, this comes close on the heels of the press secretary to the chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh saying that India should protect minorities, referring to the Murshidabad incident, because of course what we know is that in Murshidabad there were allegations that maybe the troublemakers slipped in from across the border, and these allegations were made in the public domain, and he said of course they denied that, but went on to add this, which India sees as, like I said, as the MEA spokesperson statement says, as barely disguised and unwarranted virtue signaling.
Thank you so much for that. Saurabh, for perspective here, actually more than 4,000 attacks on minorities have taken place in Bangladesh after the ouster of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And well, the perpetrators and them being brought to justice, there's absolutely no talk of that. Moving on now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Friday that Washington will stop trying to broker a Russia-Ukraine peace deal within days unless there are clear signs that a deal can in fact be reached. Now, Mr. Rubio, speaking in Paris after meeting European and Ukrainian leaders, said that President Donald Trump was in fact still interested in a deal but had many other priorities around the world and was willing to move on unless there are signs of progress. Staying with the US, a man hijacked a small plane in Belize on Thursday, stabbing 2 passengers and a pilot, before one of them stabbed passengers fatally shot him. Officials in Belize and the United States have underlined. Now, the plane then landed safely. The Tripok airplane was carrying 14 passengers and 2 crew and was flying from Corozal. It's a small town near Belize's border with Mexico. It was headed to the popular tourist destination of San Pedro when it was hijacked. The planes encircled in random directions for nearly 2 hours as the drama unfolded in the skies. The plane was tailed by a police helicopter before touching down at the airport in the coastal town of Ladyville. Here's more.
This morning, the police received information that there was a traffic air plane that departed the Corozal municipal airstrip. And shortly after taking off from the airstrip, the plane was hijacked by a passenger on board who has been identified as one Akinyela Taylor, who is a U.S. national, apparently is a veteran as well.
Ukraine's government has announced the signing of the outline of a minerals deal between the war-torn country and Washington. Economy Minister Yulia said the memorandum of intent paved the way for what she called an economic partnership agreement. She also said a final deal would also involve an investment fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Meanwhile, U.S. officials expressed hope that an accord could in fact be completed by the end of next week. U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. would 100% strike a trade deal with the European Union during a White House meeting with Italian Conservative Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Thursday. Now, Meloni, widely perceived as Europe's Trump whisperer, had more than her reputation as a diplomatic bridge built at stake during the visit. Italy, for perspective viewers, is one of Europe's top exporters to the U.S. The two leaders further struck a positive tone, even as European officials expect most of Trump's tariffs to in fact remain in place. As per reports, with little progress in trade negotiations this week, the EU is considering further retaliatory tools if the tariffs indeed remain, including restricting key exports to the US or targeting American tech firms. Listen in.
Oh, well, you think there won't be? Of course there'll be a trade deal. Very much. They want to make one very much, and we're going to make a trade deal. I fully expect it, but it'll be a fair deal.
Well, I'm here exactly to work for make the West stronger. For I believe in the West unity, and I think simply we have to talk
She
and
believes
find
in the
ourselves.
president. She believes in the president.
Also, and find ourselves in the best middle way to grow together. That's why I'm here. So, if I wouldn't think it's a reliable partner, I wouldn't be here.
Donald Trump has said that the United States was in fact in talks with China on tariffs, adding that he was confident the world's largest economies could make a deal to end bitter trade war. Now, Mr. Trump confirmed that the talks had happened since he upped tariffs on Beijing to a whopping 145% after China retaliated to his sweeping Liberation Day worldwide levies. But Mr. Trump was cagey when asked if he had indeed spoken directly with Chinese President Xi Jinping, despite having dropped several hints in the past that he indeed has. But there's no denying that Trump's administration is locked in a war of sky-high reciprocal tariffs with superpower rival China that has unnerved world markets.
Well, you don't know whether or not they've happened.
That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I've never said whether or not they've happened, but I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
She or they?
Well, the same. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China. And if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And yeah, we're talking to China.
China's President Xi Jinping left Cambodia Friday at the end of a three-nation tour that also took him to Vietnam and Malaysia. The two-day state visit to Phnom Penh, Cambodia, served as an opportunity to further strengthen China's already robust relations with its closest ally in Southeast Asia. Now, she was seen off at the airport by Senate President on Thursday night. She oversaw the signing of 37 agreements with Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet, covering a range of fields. Over in the US, university professors and students led protests on campuses across the country on Thursday against what they're calling broad attacks on higher education, including massive cuts to funding, the expulsion of international students, and the alleged stifling of free speech about the war in Gaza. Around 150 protesters, in fact, rallied at Columbia University in upscale New York, which had been the scene of huge pro-Palestinian protests just last year. They gathered on a plaza outside a building that houses federal offices, holding signs saying, with slogans including, rather, stop the war on universities and censorship is the weapon of fascists. US President Donald Trump just lashed out at the Federal Reserve Chair for not cutting interest rates, saying Jerome Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. Now, Trump's taunt comes as the European Central Bank cuts rates, and a day after Powell warned that US tariffs could in fact lead to higher inflation and slower growth. No president has ever, for perspective, attempted to remove a Fed chair prematurely, and such a move would fuel market instability after several rocky weeks for investors. This is what analysts are saying. Listen in.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But
Do you believe
I don't think he's. I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Saudi's Prince Khalid bin Salman arrived in Tehran on Thursday and met with the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran's Joint Chief of Staff General Mohammad Bagheri greeted the prince on his arrival, and an honor guard played for the two men. Now, Prince Khalid, a fighter pilot himself, has become the first Saudi defense minister to visit Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. He's also the highest-ranking Saudi royal to visit the country in decades. The last, for perspective, was King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz, who did so as the Crown Prince in 1997 for an Organization of Islamic Cooperation meeting held in Tehran. The son of a police officer has opened fire with her former service weapon at Florida State University, killing 2 people and injuring at least 6 others, according to authorities. The alleged gunman, 20-year-old FSU student Phoenix Ickner, began shooting at around lunchtime near the Student Union building in the state capital of Tallahassee. The suspect was shot by police and taken to the hospital. The motive remains unclear. The deceased were not students, campus police said, but their identities have not yet been released. Here's more.
I was looking at my phone while I was walking, and I hear a crack. I immediately knew this to be a gunshot. And as soon as I heard that, obviously, look up, it got my attention. There was a brief pause, and then I hear about 5 to 6 and 6 to 8, a handful of follow-up shots in quick succession. And then I also see smoke rising from this individual. He was about 6 foot tall, white male with brown curly hair, wearing a garnet red polo and brown khaki shorts.
I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it. and these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting, the people do. It's, you know, a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame.
Leaders were pressed throughout the night on leading Canada through the economic crisis created by US President Donald Trump. I do my own talking points, Liberal leader and Prime Minister Mark Carney said after Conservative leader and his opponent Pierre Poilievre said he relies on Trudeau-era stuff. Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has been fighting hard for airtime. It's over to my colleague Maha Siddiqui for the latest.
The biggest risk we have to affordability, the biggest risk we have to this economy is Donald Trump. I know it may be difficult, Mr. Poilievre. You spent years running against Justin Trudeau on the carbon tax, and they're both gone, okay? They're both gone.
I think we do need to counter the American tariffs with our own to deter this economic aggression. We must make clear that we will always be sovereign and independent. What would I be doing differently? Well, we need to be in a position of strength. The Liberal government has weakened our economy with anti-energy laws, red tape, and high taxes that have driven $500 billion out of our country into the United States and made us incapable of shipping our resources overseas.
America's Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS, is reportedly planning to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status in what would be probably an illegal move amid Donald Trump's concerted attacks on the independence of U.S. institutions of higher education. Now, Trump on Tuesday called for Harvard, America's oldest and wealthiest university and one of the most prestigious in the world, in fact, to lose its tax-exempt status. By the way, it's illegal for the president to direct the IRS to conduct an investigation or an audit. Elon Musk's SpaceX is a frontrunner to build US President Donald Trump's proposed missile defense shield, Reuters reported. Now, Musk, a major Trump donor and White House advisor, has formed a consortium with two other companies with close ties to the president, Peter Thiel's Palantir and the drone maker Anduril, in a bid to build key parts of Trump's touted Golden Dome defense system. It's been modeled on Israel's Iron Dome anti-missile system. Now, the companies have proposed using hundreds of satellites to monitor for threats and hundreds more equipped with lasers and missiles to shoot down enemy ordnance. SpaceX reportedly wants the Pentagon to rent the service rather than own it outright. In a subscription model, the government officials have expressed concerns about. And with that, it's time we slip into a short break. I'll see you on the other side.
Goldbank London, your #1 place for buying and selling gold. Visit goldbank.co.uk or call 0203 500 1111.
OK, we know this isn't your granddaughter. If this were your granddaughter, she'd want you to know that she's upset because you didn't hear her joke. It wasn't a particularly good joke, but still. Now you owe her an ice cream and a hearing test. Book a free test today at bootshearingcare.com. And now you can hear her jokes again. She's over the moon.
If you won't do it for you, do it for them. You could have better hearing in just a week. Boots, with you for life.
Protect what matters to you with Simply Safe Home Security. Get our Which Best Buy rated starter pack from under £200. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
You could save money on your energy, broadband and mobile bills and feel more protected when you switch to a better deal. Switch and save now at uswitch.com.
This baby bear is terrified. Torn from her mother's paws at a tender age. They will force her to live alone in a tiny, filthy cage. Like so many bears driven mad by loneliness, rubbing their wounds raw against the bars, suffering cruelly day after day, year after year, just for people's entertainment. Four Paws found little Potap crammed into a tiny, squalid cage. He'd been there for almost 9 years, lonely, and isolated. There are so many more young bears who need your help. Please call 0800 038 0496 or text BEAR5 to 70800 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone. Every month, your £3 could help us free more bears. Help give bears the veterinary care they need and help them live happy, healthy lives in the freedom of our natural sanctuaries. Please call 0800 038 0496 or text BEAR5 to 70800 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone and help Four Paws free bears from agonising torture. Please, don't leave these bears to suffer for a single day more.
Nothing beats a celebration. And at Tesco Mobile, we're ringing in 30 years of Club Card with deals like the awesome new Samsung Galaxy A56 with 12 gigs of data for just £27.99 a month with Club Card prices, saving you £144. Better yet, that price is frozen for the duration of your contract. And you can even bag a £30 Tesco gift card too. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Welcome back. You're watching The World Report. The head of the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, has warned that global economic growth will slow because of tariffs and trade tensions, but she stopped short of forecasting a recession. Uncertainty over global trade is off the chart, Kristalina Georgieva said ahead of the IMF and the World Bank meetings next week. In its January report, in fact, the IMF projected a 3.3 rise in global GDP this year, boosted by strong American economic growth. But since then, US President Donald Trump's tariff regime has led experts to downgrade their outlooks. Emerging markets, meanwhile, with export-driven economies, are among the most exposed countries, a new Goldman Sachs analysis has found. Meanwhile, Mexico's GDP is now expected to contract by 0.5% this year. With 9.8 million iPhone sales, Apple's smartphone shipments in China have dropped 9% in the first quarter compared to the same period in 2024 last year. Now, this decline marks Apple's 7th consecutive quarter of falling sales in China, with a shrinking market share of 13.7% only. Now, according to International Data Corporation analyst Bill Wong, Apple's high prices have made it ineligible for government subsidies, which offer a 15% refund on electronics priced under $820. But these subsidies have boosted sales for other manufacturers and however have not benefited Apple due to its premium pricing. In his first major Indian move, Intel's new CEO, Lip Bhutan, is restructuring the company's leadership team to make it more efficient and focused on innovation. Tan has promoted Indian origin networking chip chief Sachin Katti on the position of CTO and artificial intelligence chief. Developing Intel's new AI strategy and product roadmap to beat competitors will now fall on the shoulders of Katti. He will succeed Greg Lavender, who is retiring from Intel. Scientists have found new but tentative evidence that a faraway world orbiting another star system may be home to life. A Cambridge team studying the atmosphere of a planet called K218b has detected signs of molecules which on Earth are only produced by simple organisms. Now, this is the second and the most promising time chemicals associated with life have been detected in the planet's atmosphere by NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. Now, this while scientists find strongest evidence yet of life on distant planets. The team stressed that more data is needed to confirm these results. In the world of sports, Mercedes Formula F1 driver George Russell is currently in contract renewal talks with team boss Toto Wolff. The 27-year-old Briton has said that there is nothing unusual about time it's taking. Now, Russell, who will be out of contract at the end of this season, has been performing well, scoring 63 points out of Mercedes' 93 points so far this year. Now, downplaying speculation around his future, he said that he's happy with his form and that performance is his currency. Oscar-nominated actor Haley Joel Osment has been charged with public intoxication and cocaine possession after his arrest earlier this month at a North California ski resort. The Mono County District Attorney's Office announced the misdemeanor charges Thursday against the 37-year-old actor who starred as a child in the movies The Sixth Sense and AI. Osment was arrested on the 8th of April at the Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort on suspicion of public intoxication, District Attorney David Anderson said in a news release. Now, the actor is due to be arraigned on the 7th of July. Well, that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful weekend.
Remember those nights we didn't take off our makeup? Our skin does. Lucky I've got this new night serum then.
New number 7 Future Renew Night Serum with Night Active Pepticology works with your skin to reverse visible signs of skin damage while you sleep. Save £10 on new number 7 Future Renew Night Serum.
For me, it's about getting your base structure right and then looking at what you've got. I'm constantly just changing things. Looking at like different aspects of nature and how they fit together and, you know, having your personality come through your product. And it takes a lot of work to feel this effortless, but I always know when it's right.
You could save money on your energy, broadband and mobile bills and feel more protected when you switch to a better deal. Switch and save now at uswitch.com.
We know travel can be confusing. That's why I use travelup.com. You can upgrade your seat, one way or return, increase your baggage allowance, filter by flight time, journey duration, and customer rating. And while you're away, TravelUp has you covered. From weather updates and on-demand taxi services to event and excursion tickets, all at your fingertips. Book now on travelup.com or call 0207 580 5000. TravelUp, flights, hotels, holidays.
Obviously, she is being provoked either by the BJP party or by Amit Shah himself, that you go and stir up more trouble. Most undesirable.
Sir, also the West Bengal government submitted a report in the Calcutta High Court yesterday. This is a state government report.
Yes.
It says that Hindu homes were targeted in Murshidabad. The unruly mob was so violent that they snatched the pistol of the police who was on duty there. What do you have to say about the law and order situation that prevailed in Murshidabad at that point in time? Because these are very serious points that the state government has made.
This is unfortunate. But the thing that happened is, on the one hand, there is spontaneous reaction of the common people against the amended Waqf law. On the other hand, agent provocateurs, maybe from across the border, they played a role in creating such violence. In that situation, the police was caught in a difficult position from which they have recovered slowly.
The BJP has stepped up pressure on Congress over the Herald case. Now, BJP protests in New Delhi over the allegation of money laundering began a short while ago. Now, the BJP has slammed the Congress and levelled corruption charges, saying several scams took place under the Gandhis and that the weekly newspaper is nothing but an ATM of the Congress, raising questions further about the advertisement revenue and funding of the weekly paper. Meanwhile, Congress has termed the allegations as politically motivated and baseless. Here's what Anurag Thakur of BJP said and what the Congress says refuting the allegations. Listen in.
अब नेशनल हेरल्ड है क्या? It's not a daily newspaper. ये दैनिक अखबार नहीं है. It's a non-regular paper. ऐसे एक तो वीकली पेपर है और वो भी छपता है. क्या छपता है? यहां पर इतने सारे पत्रकार, आप में से कोई नेशनल हेरल्ड से है क्या? कोई नेशनल हेरल्ड पढ़ता है क्या? अखबार वैसे तो कागज पे छपता है,